Welcome to a brand new Planet Coaster series in a brand new Planet Coaster game. Yes, this is the first of many series in the incredibly long-awaited Planet Coaster 2. I've already made a few videos on my initial reaction to the game during early access, so feel free to check those out too, only if you want to. But for now, it's time to build a park. Gosh, how exciting. Regular viewers will know I have a very distinct style when it comes to building in Planet Coaster. Not one that's appreciated by all, but one that gives me a niche, baby. And that style is jank. And what is something when it's janky? Well, it's of extremely poor and unreliable quality, of course. Think of those rural budget parks where it's all just teetering on the edge of those minimum health and safety requirements and everything is just looking a little bit tired. And why am I drawn to this style, you ask? Well, I'm British, and we don't know much else. With that, we are going to be building a janky British water park that's going to be a mashup of pre-existing infrastructure retrofitted and integrated within new builds. It's going to be a hot mess, but it's going to be totes relatable, hopefully. I'm also going to be employing the talents of some of my favourite creators along the way, so stick around. Now the excitement of a new game got the better of me, and I didn't want to get bogged down with fully detailing a car park right away, but don't worry, I will come back to it. I created a strip of pavement or sidewalk to separate the car park and entrance plaza, sinking it down to ground level, obviously avoiding any of that dreadful Z fighting. This is the first example of how fantastic the new path system is, connecting two angled sections of path seamlessly, combining the stamp tool and draw tool. Look at that. At the time of recording, we don't have any concrete or asphalt terrain paint, so I went with this grey path texture instead, knowing guests won't be able to traverse it anyway. Next, I repositioned our wonderful new spawn points, these rather sleek looking coaches. Fun fact, I actually have a Category D driver's license, allowing me to drive all types of bus and coach. Moving on to the entrance, we're going nice and simple with some brick ticket booths, an admin building, and guest services. You'll notice I've made my life harder by introducing two angles here. It's important to avoid boxy angles for a more interesting skyline. In case anyone's wondering, the only way to create a gridded build on two separate angles is to separate the group and use the advanced move for fine placement. Any overlap will be hidden on the interior. I popped a roof on top and added some trims. We like trims here on the Littlesocks channel. Trims make or break a build. The aesthetic I'm going for here is the park's attempt to hide what is a super cheap brick build by slapping a bunch of details on the front to jazz it up. Toward the end of Planet Coaster 1's life cycle, we had a whole heap of custom decal assets made by the community, so it's great to see that Frontier took that on board and added them to the base game. Lots of copying and pasting around the faces of the building before adding some windows. I used wooden jetty pieces for some fencing, Never restrict a piece to its intended use. The brilliant thing about Planco is you can do whatever you want. There are no rules. We're going to need some signage, and for that we'll need a support structure, for which I used wooden planks and more jetty pieces. I created some extremely oversized text signs before downscaling after. At the moment, duplicate an advanced move doesn't retain scale or colour, which is a pain, but I'm hoping it's fixed soon. We now have the exciting task of implementing our main park colour scheme. The bad news is, I come back and change the colour later. Soz. I did some blue and white trim using scaled art shapes. For the admin building, I used the creatively named wooden beam walls, which also give some additional height to contrast the shorter ticket offices, bearing in mind this would house a few offices. Some more trims, of course. Whacking out my lovely new measuring tape again, I evenly spaced some windows. I squished a medium-sized staff from inside and stuck a door on the front. I even made it kinda custom. Gosh, look at those details. With a roof on top, I could add some sexy ducting. Come on, you know it's a little bit sexy. I must say it's brilliant to see so many Planco 1 TMTK items brought to the base game, although Hydro is definitely out of a job now. Next, guest services, once again varying the build style to avoid repetition. Now remember not to get too attached to that blue accent colour, I've warned you it's changing. I stuck a cheeky awning on the front before adding a pitched roof. As much as I hate the general public, they are a necessary evil in an amusement park, so I added some entrance gates. It's now time for bins and benches. Everyone loves bins and benches. On the Moomin Littlesocks channel, we flippin' love some backstage areas, and it's time for our first of many. This one dedicated to our mechanic workshop, power and water. I laid some staff-only pathing before constructing a super basic warehouse build out of more bricks and breeze blocks. No fancy trim work here as it's not public facing. I wanted to give the impression of this being built in two sections, perhaps with half of it being an extension on an existing build. Goodness, these assets look good. The textures make me happy. I even added a little canopy. How delightful. Onto the power, I went with some solar panels and wired up a couple of distributors to power our entrance and workshop. Gosh, we're so sustainable. Time for a little bit of management. I hired some staff, drew a new staff zone, and assigned everyone to the roster. On to the main event of today's episode, the pool. Growing up in the late 90s and early noughties, there was a very distinct style of leisure centre found all across the UK. They were always dated, tired, and generally a bit grim, but I can't tell you the nostalgia they give me now. They have that perfect blend of brutalism and Memphis Milano, and yes, I know how pretentious I sound right now. This particular pool is inspired by a leisure centre I grew up with in Sheringham, Norfolk, originally called Splash, known for its wave pool and body slide. But I'm already told it resembles every other leisure centre in the UK. I honestly can't remember the layout of the original flume, so I just went with a simple enclosed helix with a runoff. To fill some space at the top, I added a teeny little wading pool for the disgusting little children. Three lifeguards give us enough coverage for our two pools. As a kid, was anyone else terrified of getting too close to the wave machine? I had all sorts of nightmares about that thing. and upon further research on how they work, I had every reason to be terrified. But now I know I have to at least try to install this under the pool for extra realism, so get ready for that in a future episode. For the exterior of the pool, I referenced the now demolished Great Yarmouth Marina with its heavily weathered beige brick. Now, instead of replicating those wonderful geometric masterpieces, I stole that beautiful shade of turquoise and used it for our park's accent colour. I told you it was going to change. As it currently stands, these windows remain open, so it's going to be a tad chilly in our pool, but my hope is that Frontier give us glass sometime soon. If not, I'll just use the water pieces like everyone else has been doing. The game even recognised how dreary my build was looking and it started raining, but stick with me, it'll be worth it. I raised the height of the rear section to facilitate the almighty flume. Once I popped the roof on, I got my first taste of how good the Planco 2 lighting is. I mean, look at that! Time for the foyer, going for a few different angles here to really stress me out, but it'll all be worth it, I think. Whilst I generally despise a lot of the garish Planco paths, they have their time to shine, and this is that time. I used the draw tool to perfectly map out the shape of the entrance, followed by an extension to our existing plaza. More trims. If you're new, you'll get used to the whole trims thing. I'd say 80% of my builds are just trim. Our pool really pushed the boat out here and incorporated some Hawaiian print on this section. Quite overwhelming. You can get that on a t-shirt, by the way. Some planks break up the monotony of the plain wall. Oh, more trims. Our pool, of course, needs changing rooms, so I added some. Mind-blowing, I know. Goodness crikey, I love the scale tool. Some sunbeds for our lovely Brits to pretend they're on holiday whilst laying in what is a glorified high school gym. A key feature of these indoor pools seems to be a myriad of trussing, framework and ducting, so I did just that. In the background you will notice a planter full of palms. Unfortunately, the sway on the foliage is so extreme I simply couldn't stop them clipping through the walls during high winds, so I got rid of it all. It was looking too classy anyway. I started with the vents pointing down, but it looked too strange in the end, so I twisted them back to the side. Now here, if you look really closely, you'll see I'm doing trims again. At this stage we've got a lot of brutalism but not enough Memphis, so let's throw some art shapes on the wall, shall we? 80s, 90s architecture, everyone. Let's be honest, this door was made for this build. A splash emporium and slush hour will really draw the punters in now. Irresistible. I went overboard on the benches in an attempt to stop guests walking through the walls, but please just fix that front ear, I beg you. If anything, my staff just found new routes to actively travel through solid brick just to taunt me. More tacky decals. Yay! I popped a roof on top before adding some more sexy ducting and a custom spinning sign. Wowee. One of the last jobs of the day is to add water purification to our pools, so I created a couple of pump rooms and connected them to an underground well in our backstage area. Finally, a few final details in the form of shutters, electrical bits and signs. As I always do, I went back for a final detail pass off camera to wrap up today's build. Enjoy the cinematics, and maybe next episode we'll add an actual ride. Catch you then.